Hey all, Carpetbagger here, coming to you live from the South, more specifically the Crescent City of New Orleans, Louisiana, and I am in front of the Museum of Death. I have been to the Museum of Death in Hollywood, and I did a review of that on my channel, so I figured since we're here in New Orleans, we'll see the other Museum of Death here. My understanding is it is owned by the same family. I think there's two brothers. One owns each of the Museums of Death. We're going to see how this one stacks up to the severely traumatizing version in Hollywood. That was creepy. Anyways, looks like there's actually a huge line out the door, so I'll see you guys on the other side. They're not allowed to film in there, so I will go in, I will observe it with my eyeballs, and I will give you a review of the New Orleans Museum of Death. There's no human death in the lobby, but there is some animal heads. Wow, they actually sell a biodegradable urn in the gift shop. You can also buy a sheep's heart. Fetal pig actually comes in twos. $80 is a pretty good price. Is that a pig heart? I love that even here has a fur-bearing trout. Alright guys, just please no photos or videos while you're in there. It's Kevorkian's death machine on a t-shirt. Looks like some serial killer trading cards there.
Alright, cool.
Yeah, it's actually in the men's bathroom above the toilet. There's pictures of mutilated women. That's disturbing. Alright, so that was the New Orleans Museum of Death, and I'm actually way less traumatized than I was after going to the one in Hollywood. This one is less graphic for whatever reason. The Hollywood one was practically wallpapered with murdered bodies. This one is a little more scaled back. And you know what? If you went in there and looked around, and you heard me say that was scaled back, you'd think I was crazy, because it's still some super intense graphic stuff. A lot of like the other one, there's a lot of photographic displays, and there is a lot of like artifacts that are like tiny, like little rocks from a certain place, that a lot of rubble from the Spawn Ranch, the Manson family Spawn Ranch. Yeah, and actually I would say, I think it's safe to say that this is almost like a miniature version of the one in Hollywood. The one in Hollywood seems more like the main Museum of Death, and this is more like an outpost, or a satellite version. Because yeah, it's a lot smaller. It's basically just two big rooms. The one in Hollywood's more cavernous. So yeah, you walk in, and they continue with, I guess, the kind of easy wing, because the first exhibit is bones and taxidermy. They do have some of the taxidermy dogs, which they had in Hollywood. Actually, the one in Hollywood was cool because they had some really famous taxidermy dogs. It's almost, yeah, I was thinking about seeing a dog taxidermied is unsettling, just because of our human relationship with dogs. And they actually had some dogs that were like taxidermy, like deer, with like their heads on a plaque looking out, that's super strange. They also have the human skeletons and animal skeletons posed in weird positions. There's a alligator skeleton posed like it's eating a human skeleton's leg, like skeleton combat. Then there's another one that's like wrestling with a horse, like a big horse skeleton. They do have I wish I could have taken a picture or video of this, but they have like the worst taxidermied horse head I've ever seen. It like looks like Frankenstein with like big stitches in it. So yeah, you go in, and it gets a little more intense. There's of course serial killer art, as they have in a lot of this type of museum. When you travel around and look at different museums, you learn that John Wayne Gacy was apparently the most prolific artist of our time, because there is so many pieces of John Wayne Gacy artwork out there, his creepy clown artwork. You know, the whole idea of someone killing a bunch of people and then selling creepy paintings, that's disturbing. I actually heard that, you know, he could sell the paintings, but the money had to go into the prison commissary, so all he could buy was, like, you know, prison stuff. So heading in, there's a lot of funeral home, like antique funeral home equipment. A lot less graphic than the one in Hollywood, but, you know, just museum style, showing you different pieces of funeral home equipment. And then what's pretty much the crown jewel of this collection, and kind of the thing that makes it, like, worth it to go in, is they have the actual suicide machine used by Dr. Kevorkian, which is wild. So it's on display up there. And then surrounding the suicide machine, they have Dr. Kevorkian's artwork. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen Dr. Kevorkian's artwork. Don't Google it, it's too disturbing. But yeah, it's messed up. Like, he in addition to being a doctor that helped people kill themselves, he also painted, like, horrifying, ghoulish paintings of scary. They're terrifying. So you have these terrifying paintings around his suicide machine. And it's like, yeah, you either think about Dr. Kevorkian one way or the other. Either he was way out of line medically, or he was doing the right thing medically. But when you look at these paintings, it may change your perception and view on Dr. Kevorkian. Like, oh, did this guy just love killing people? Is that the deal? And then the back room, they have a theater room with this hour-long video. And no, I didn't sit and watch it, but it's just basically just murder and dead bodies. It's like I said about the Hollywood one, it's kind of like Rotten.com put as a museum. Oh yeah, don't Google Rotten.com, because you just don't. Yeah, they have some shrunken heads in there. I think they have about 3 genuine shrunken heads, and then they had the preserved mummified head of an African prince rotating on a platform. One artifact that caught my eye was they had a dog dish that was at the murder scene of Nicole Brown Simpson. So they had this metal dog bowl, but the thing that makes it extra confusing and really confused me at first, the dog's name's Kato. So their friend, Nicole and OJ's friend, Kato Kalin, you know, was notorious in the news, and the dog's named Kato, and Kato was like this weird pool boy. So that's really confusing. I saw Kato's dog bowl. I'm like, did they make Kato drink out of a dog bowl? It's something I really thought. But then it cleared it up that Kato the dog and Kato the man were two different people. I think they had like a t-shirt from David Koresh's band that he had given somebody. So it said David Koresh on the top. It showed him shredding the guitar, and it said God Rocks on the bottom. And yeah, a lot of just in-depth stuff. I mean, you could, if you were really interested, you could just sit there and read every little, like, there's letters from serial killers, documents chronicling horrible crimes. You could spend a lot of time reading, but you know, I don't like to sit around and read in a museum. I like to see stuff. I don't go to museums to read. So yeah, depending on what you like best, the Hollywood Museum I almost thought was too intense. This one's less intense, but it's still intense. But the Hollywood Museum had a lot more stuff. Just a lot more stuff in general. So yeah, take your pick which one you'd like to visit. I'd say if you want to go all in with the gore and just everything, go to the Hollywood one. You could probably, you know, if you want to, the main reason would be to see the Dr. Kevorkian suicide machine, because that is a incredible piece of history. I remember when Dr. Kevorkian was all in the news. I remember everyone had an opinion whether or not what he was doing was you know, merciful in the work of God, or if it was the work of the devil. You know, just it was a wild time. But yeah, if you'd like a softer, friendlier version of the Museum of Death, come down here to New Orleans and check out their toned down, scaled down gored down version of the Museum of Death. Appreciate you guys watching. If you like these videos, check down in the description. There's an interactive map that'll show you where I've been, and you can tell me where I need to go. If you like to contribute to the channel, consider buying a t-shirt, consider donating to Patreon. All that information is in the description. But for now, this one's in the bag.